Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We know that we have people tuning in from all across the world, and we are so excited to kick off our first webinar series with Rotary International around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so as we were continuing to plan for today's webinar, you all had an opportunity to participate in what we will call the pre-survey to this webinar. So thank you all so much for engaging in that survey. And one of the questions that we asked was around what is one of the common or the largest challenges that you guys face as a member in your club or just as an individual around diversity and inclusion in organizations? Because today I will tell you on the call, we do not just have Rotarians. We have interactors, Rotaractors, and non-Rotarians on this call today. So we're going to try to be pretty inclusive of our language. And we understand that individuals who complete the survey also have not all been Rotarians. But look at on the screen today, we have seen this as one of the biggest challenges that was reported. 69% of the respondents who completed the survey reported that the biggest challenge that they have in this work is having the knowledge to influence change. And so today, my friends, as we come together, what we're looking to really talk about is those challenges. And we understand that we have individuals from all over the world. So when we speak about these challenges, I want you all to know we have an awesome panel, but our challenges it's coming from our perspective, okay? And we're trying to keep our perspective locally and globally due to our reach today. So we want to make sure that we go through some challenges and hear some stories, but most importantly, talk about the importance around designing this plan, if you will, around building your diversity, equity, and inclusion for your organization or for your community. So we definitely encourage you to continue to engage in the chat, but I am really excited to hear from our speakers today. And so I love to be the moderator, but I most importantly cannot wait for you all to hear the stories. So I'm going to have the panelists come up and just do a very brief introduction to tell a little bit about who they are and how they show up today in this space. And we're going to go ahead and begin and with our great friend Carol. So Carol, if you don't mind introducing yourself, unmuting yourself and talking to our audience today.
Sure. I'm Carol Horn. I have been a Rotarian for 16 years. I'm a member of the Council Bluffs, Iowa, in the United States Noon Club, and I'm a member of the District 5650. I'm actually serving currently as our district governor-elect. I own a company called Synchronicity, and I spend quite a bit of time in the DEI space, diversity, equity, and inclusion space in the work that I do. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Bowtie.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Now we're going to go down. We're going to leave the United States and we're going to go to I call him my little brother, but he's a great friend, Ofik. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you show up to today's space.
Hey everyone, I'm so glad to be here. I have the honor to be in this conversation with my amazing co-panelists. My name is Ofik Royal and I'm an interactor in the Interact Club team in Israel. District 2419, and I'm the project manager in my club. During this pandemic, I joined a multi-continental project called the Rotary Interactive Quarantine, hosted by District 6840. And about a month after I joined the project, I founded a new project there called Hear My Story, which its purpose is making all youth voice be heard. Rotary youth around the world share their stories about common topics such as human and women rights, prejudice, bullying, etc. And in this way, we are educating the global community and striving to a better world.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we are so excited to have you on, and we are amazed by your presence. You're one of our first interactors to be on one of our international webinars. So we are so happy to have you. Last but definitely not least, we're going to turn it over to our great friend Sydney to introduce herself to the world.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney Schilling. I'm coming to you from Portland, Oregon, and on the unceded lands of the Chinook tribe. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm here representing Big West Rotaract. I'm a director on the board, and I'm also the co-president of the Portland Rotaract Club, as well as the district Rotaract representative of District 5100. So I'm excited to share with you today about what Big West Rotaract is doing, and so excited to be here with all of the panelists.
Well, we are so excited to have you all, and you guys are going to hear, you're in for a treat. You're going to hear all their stories as we talk about accountability and inclusion. And so most people are asking this question, you know, why is Rotary hosting this type of platform, and why are we doing this right now? Well, my friends, I want to ask the question back. Why not? Why not now? Why not Rotary? Rotary, we are an amazing organization with local action, global mindsets, and we're making a difference. And so our organization as Rotarians, we are the ones, are the beacons in our community, service above self, what we strive for. And so we cannot strive for true service above self without talking about true diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And so I am so, so happy for today's discussion. And I do know that we all come to this conversation very different based on your climate and culture and how you potentially could define diversity and inclusion. So Carol, will you go ahead and begin us with the conversation on talking a little bit about the terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Sure, Bowtie. So it's kind of like this. So diversity is a fact, right? It exists. It may not necessarily exist in all of our arrangements or in our clubs or what have you, but diversity exists. And there is visible diversity and invisible diversity. So for instance, so you can look at me and you can tell that I am white, that I am female. You can probably tell by the wrinkles and color of my hair that I'm in my 50s. You can probably tell too that I'm probably, you know, with my voice that I'm English speaking and that I am from the upper Midwest of the United States. What you may not know about me is my invisible diversity, right? So such things as I'm college educated, I am straight, cisgender, I am divorced with no kids. You may not know that I am very spiritual, but do not subscribe to an organized religion. I'm left-handed. So visible and invisible diversity is very, very important. And it's key that we embrace both. And we need to welcome people of all backgrounds, all cultures, all experiences, and all identities into Rotary. Equity, now equity is a choice, right? Because equity is really about systems and about processes, right? So in equity, especially here in Rotary, we need to choose our systems and our processes so that we have fair treatment and equal opportunity and advancement. So our theme this year, President Holger's theme this year is about opening opportunities, that Rotary opens opportunities. We need to open opportunities for all. Inclusion is really about action. We're people of action, and we need to be intentional and creative in creating experiences and opportunities for people to feel welcomed and respected and valued in our clubs. And this leads us to belonging, and belonging is where we get results. When we have belonging, right, we belong to Rotary clubs. When we have belonging, we can make that lasting impact. That's a big part of our mission. And whether that be around the globe, in our communities, or in ourselves. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why it's
awesome. Now, I really appreciate you going through each of those terms. And as you all know on this call today, the first question that I will pose to you all as the audience is very important for you to understand what those terms mean for you and your organization and your community, because we do understand this is a global conversation. And based on your climate and culture and your community in which you live, diversity could look very differently. But the point is that diversity is visible and invisible, and that road to equity and equitable treatment, it all is situational, and it also depends. So that's your first homework assignment, is that as you go to begin this conversation, ask the conversation around what does these terms mean for you and your club and organization. So that's the first message of this. And as we go into our framework, and what is a framework? Why do we need this deal here, Todd? The framework is essentially a tool. It's a tool to help us move towards a progress of being effective for our strategy that we build within our local clubs and communities. And this tool of a framework, it's been kind of proven with best practices and a scientific approach. It's really a business alignment, if you will. And so the framework is really put into place to allow you to assess where you guys are at, which means asking the questions, having the conversation, as well as the education. But beyond assessment, it allows for you to put what you learned into action that's measurable, that's strategic, that can be short-term and long-term. And so a framework is definitely something that is a great tool, and that should allow you to govern your conversations. Now, this is the interesting thing about the framework. You cannot do the framework by yourself, my friends. It must involve other people. It must involve everyone in your club, in your organization, and it must extend beyond just a scope of a presentation. It has to really look at all your activities, all your processes, systems, and understanding what is the goal, what are you trying to measure, and how are you going to do that so you can make inclusion development better for your organization and community in which you live and serve. So as we talk about this framework and putting it into motion, what I would love to see if the panelists, they will come before you and tell a little bit about their project, a story, and what they actually did around action to create inclusive development in their own area. So Ofik, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about what you and your story and this incredible project that you all created out of Israel, and now it's worldwide.
I would love to, Todd. As I told you in the beginning, I founded a Rotary project in the pandemic called Hear My Story Project in order to raise the youth voice community. While I was in quarantine, as the rest of the world, I realized the world has changed. Not just with wearing masks or being apart 2 meters from people, but with the community behavior. A lot of people realized that we are all humans. The corona doesn't pass over anybody. Rich, poor, white, black, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, everybody can get infected. This was the moment when I realized that I should start acting. Like, if the world has finally realized this simple fact, why don't we show them a lot of most important facts, such as accepting the other? When I first founded the project, I didn't have a kind of a plan. I didn't know what to do. All I had was a dream to a better world. It wasn't easy at first. I faced a lot of challenges, such as making time, recruiting people to join, and a lot of self-brainstormings. And all of this at the middle of the school year. I had to stay disciplined, but it was worth it. I learned a lot of things, my strength, my weaknesses, and above all, the power of teamwork. And after weeks of hard work, I finally got my team, a powerful and passionate group of people who are willing to run this project. We all agreed we want to show the world a different point of view. Topics like women's rights, prejudice, or bullying, we mainly hear just by our teachers or principals. But those aren't the people who face the situation. Those people are teenagers like me, like a lot of people. So why don't we let them tell their stories? As a result, we reached a lot of Rotary youth around the world in order to tell their experiences about worldwide issues. And we were so glad to see a lot of them are willing to share. We did it by videos, by global conversation, for example, with Dr. Todd Jenkins, and by giving information about every weekly topic. Today, we post almost every week a video about different worldwide situation. I don't think I will know when I will reach our goal or when it will happen, but I think we are on the right way to do this. I think we show the world too young is not an option. There is no too young to talk about things like DEI, or there is no too young to change the world. It's all a matter of how much you care and how much you are willing to work. Young people like me doesn't get opportunities like this so often. Talking to hundreds of people who wants to hear what I have to say sounds like a dream to me. A lot of teenagers around the world think like the world is made for the adults. They have the power to change the world, not us. I know that because I used to be like this. I used to think like, what can I do? If the world is made for adults, how can I change it? I knew that, but I didn't stop dreaming. And I worked really hard to get people to listen to me and notice me. I want to end up with an advice for you all, young and adults. We're in this world together. This is our planet. No matter if you are too young or too old, if you want things to be changed, start acting now and don't wait. Thank you so much for listening to me. In this slide, we have the social media of my project, Hear My Story. I would love if you all can take a look, and I'm going to write down my personal email if you have a question or just want to talk. Thank you all.
Man, Ophik, you're gonna make me, I'm tearing up over here. I'm so serious because my friends today, this is why we're having this panel, because what you can see, what we heard from Ophik was several things. He said several things that just started as a dream. He saw a gap. He saw something that him and his friends and colleagues went to solve, and they got together, and there was some challenges that you heard, but they continued to progress and move forward. And look at this incredible platform. I encourage that you all go and look at it on Instagram, YouTube, Hear My Story Project, and continue to support Ophik and everyone. But the message here is that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, does not have an age number on who should be involved and who can make a difference. So thank you so much, Ophik, for sharing your incredible story. And I cannot wait to continue to see the progression and support of Hear My Story Project and all the interactors around the world. Sydney, we're coming to you next, my friend. Tell us a little bit about your story and a little bit about the things that you are doing in diversity, equity, and inclusion work with Rotaract.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, great job, Ophik. I love the Hear My Story project and what you're doing. It's such an inspiration. So keep it up, and thank you for sharing with us. Again, I'm so happy to be here. It's so important for Rotary International to bring in young perspectives from Rotaract and Interact, because all of our perspectives matter in this work. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about Big West Rotaract and what we're doing. So for those of you who don't know, Big West Rotaract, MDIO, serves Rotaract clubs and districts throughout the West Coast of North America. And we provide specific training and resources for Rotaractors. And so one of the ways that Big West Rotaract has looked to be more inclusive within our organization is by creating a diversity, equity, and inclusion resource committee, which we are in the process of now. And the idea really started out of a diversity, equity, inclusion session that we held at our annual Institute training for Rotaractors. And within the process of planning this session, we looked at, well, what resources could we offer for Rotaractors out of this DEI session? And it came up from Dr. Jenkins that there are no specific resources for Rotaract clubs looking to address DEI within their clubs, and resources that specifically address the issues within younger clubs. And so his advice to us was to start a DEI resource committee. And so that is what we are starting now. We're in the formation process, and we have an application out on our website and on our social media. And we're looking to have our first committee members by the end of September. And then we will look to develop Rotaract specific resources. But in order to do that, we have to understand where the gaps are within our clubs. And so we are also developing a club culture survey. which we will send out to clubs to understand where there are strengths, where there are gaps, and where there are opportunities for growth. And then from there, our committee will look to develop a resource toolkit for Rotaractors to apply. And so our committee involves Rotaractors, so Big West Rotaract directors, and then Rotaractors from the districts and clubs that we serve, and then a subject matter expert who happens to be Dr. Jenkins. And so Todd mentioned framework earlier, right? The framework is so important. And so that has been really important within our process of developing this committee and what we want it to look like and who we want it to serve. And so I would recommend that you have to be intentional with the framework and setting up a really strong foundation. For us, making sure the committee members are all aligned in the vision. Involving a subject matter expert that is well-versed in DEI work and can offer objective suggestions and an approach to create a really successful impact. We've also, looked at who is in the room, who do we want to be in the room, and who is not in the room, and sought out additional voices there. And so, within this process of forming the committee and forming the culture survey, one of the challenges that we faced is that even when we have directors that have lived experience, that have passion, that have education within diversity, equity, and inclusion work, we still don't know all the answers all the time, right? And so DEI is an ever-learning process. And so, for example, within our club culture survey, in drafting and formulating some of the questions that we want to ask club members, we recognize, we might not know how to ask this question in an equitable and representative way of those that we're trying to reach and the answers that we're trying to reach. And so it's been really important for us to kind of go back to the drawing board and reassess, because how many times have we all been in a situation where, we went to the drawing board or we tried to rework something, and at the end of the day, we just threw in the towel and said, good enough. Well, there's an impact to that, right? And so we don't just want it to be good enough. We have to involve additional perspectives to the table, and we have to go back and do the learning and create a culture within your committee that is, celebratory of being transparent and knowing when to say, I don't know, we need to take some time with this and go learn on our own. And so for clubs and organizations that are looking to implement similar resources or committees, if you need to regroup along the way, or if there's a misstep, if you need to seek out additional perspectives or do some education, it's really important within your committee to create that culture, because the impact is always greater than the attention. And so as we look to create these committees, we also have to keep in mind that the end goal is that DEI should be a framework that we implement within all aspects of our lives. And that is such an opportunity for learning and growth, right? It's not just within our Rotaract clubs. It's not just within a DEI committee. It's within all aspects of our lives, and it can be recreated too. And so one of the ways for me personally that's been recreated is my district is looking to develop a DEI task force, which is really awesome. This process for us, for directors, has been a great opportunity to learn and grow and value the various perspectives that our directors bring, and notice when we have more learning to do and how this process can be recreated. And so, yeah, I would recommend, starting there. And the opportunity is that we get to learn throughout this process together and better ourselves and create a really big impact. And in that sense, we are serving, we get the chance to serve.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. You said so many great things there, and I want to highlight a few. First, as you all have seen from OFIC, he created a small project that made a big difference. And then Sydney, what she is doing, which is I hear from a lot of clubs and organizations, is where do we start for organization change? So they created a task force, they created a committee. And the first thing that we heard from their committee is they created and designed how they were going to ask these questions. Another critical thing she said is that she had to take in consideration of the culture and to understand the strategy of how to deploy the efforts. And so as you all are starting to build your processes, as you can see, you can have a project or you can have a task force to do something. And it definitely another great point. She said it took time. It takes time. It is patience because we're dealing with humans, and humans all come to this space very differently. Thank you so much, Sydney. Carol, we would love to hear from you, someone who has been able to take not just from a project or a task force, but to integrate this into everything you do, especially coming in as district governor. Carol, will you share your story?
Yeah, so you guys are hard acts to follow. Such impressive leaders, and I feel really confident about where Rotary is going if we've got folks like this that are going to come in and continue to lead in Rotary. Puts us in a really great place. So in District 5650, and I need to go back a few years just to give you a little background. In 2018, we did an appreciative inquiry on empowering women in Rotary. And it was sanctioned by our district governor then, Tom Cardwell. And he had asked me to facilitate this process. And so we did this. And one of the things that we learned out of the appreciative inquiry was that it was actually bigger than that. That not only did we want to empower women, but we really wanted a greater level of diversity in our district and in our clubs overall. And then when we presented this at the district conference, one of the things that we discovered then was that, you know, there is a real need for our clubs to grow and to increase inclusivity. So the initiative that our district is doing is an inclusion initiative, and it is about starting the process, but getting it integrated into every single thing we do. And so the initiative is actually housed inside of our membership team, our district membership team, as opposed to being a special group necessarily. And we are integrating all leadership into this process. We had one of our clubs, the Omaha Suburban Club, step up and say, we want to do this so badly, we're gonna go ahead and do the district grant to help fund the initiative. And so we got district designated funds, they matched it with their foundation, and we are now going to do a inclusive communities training by a company called Inclusive Communities out of Omaha for 80 members of our district. So all of our leadership team, our presidents, president-elects, the membership team, and any other Rotarian that wants to sign up. And Suburban told me the other day that, you know what, if we go past 80, we'll fund a second training. We will do that. And so the energy behind it has just been awesome. And the support of leadership, the support around me, the district governor team, across all of our district governors, past and future, has been incredible. And just the strong desire to make this happen makes it really easy. Now, have we had roadblocks? A few here and there. And it's really been more around rumblings and worry. Are we going to lose members because of this? Are we going to appear political? And our response to that has been, you know, there's nothing political about the four-way test. And our initiative is very much the four-way test. Is it the truth? Yes. Is it fair to all concerned? Absolutely. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? You bet it will. And is it beneficial to all concerned? Not only is it beneficial to us as Rotarians, but it's going to be beneficial to our communities. If we represent our communities, like fully represent the communities in which we serve, we're going to have a higher level of trust and a higher level of impact, and we are going to be the go-to organization to make things happen in a really positive way. And it's going to allow for us to make greater impact, which is one of the priorities of the new strategic plan for Rotary International. When you look at our mission and our vision and our values and everything that is important to us as Rotarians, this is who we are. This is who we are. And so it's not a hard sell. It really isn't. And I think we're going to gain Rotarians. part of the outcomes that we're really expecting out of our initiative over the next 2 years is to grow several clubs by, in areas that we just don't have a lot of representation. So in our metro, North Omaha, South Omaha, growing a community-based Rotaract club. We have not been able to sustain one of those, but we have Sydney to help us out. So we're gonna be doing some of that going on. Kind of excited about that. Growing some satellite clubs that are cause-based, that will really speak to people. The other part of our initiative, besides training and growing clubs, is that we are going to, as a district, reach out to underrepresented groups and be able to recruit and say, hey, take a look at us, take a look at Rotary, take a look at all of our clubs, explore them a bit, see who we are, and then come join us and serve us. And so we're going to sponsor some events, which is, not typical for Rotary, but it is going to be what we're going to do, is to take that initiative to create that outreach, right? Another one of the strategic priorities for Rotary International. So we've really aligned ourselves well with Rotary's efforts on a global scale, right there in our district. And we are excited about this, and I'm wide open to talk to anybody that wants to talk about this. I'll get my email address into the chat, but we are thrilled, and we're excited what it means to us and to our district.
Thank you so much for providing that perspective. Well done, well done. And I will tell you, as you all have learned from Carol and we're hearing, is that this is just not a one-person project. I love what you have done, Carol. You integrated diversity and inclusion to everything we think, say, and do as Rotarians, because it should be about who we are, how we show up. It's with our values. Our core value is diversity. We have a position statement from Rotary International. So we have to ensure that we have awareness and training, just as Carol said, training district-wide. So this should not just be a standalone initiative. You have to embed this into all we do, because we have to have awareness, because we also have to have the outcome, which is behavior change. I know that's challenging. And so we're getting a lot of messages in the chat, as well as I'm getting direct messages. And I'm going to just let you all know, we plan to send a recap of all the stories shared today and all their contact information. You'll get that in the email so you can get more information, as well as we plan to open it up for a Q&A shortly. But I want to remind you of a couple of things as Rotarians. Our theme this year, of course, is Rotary Open Opportunities. What better fitting theme in the midst of all what we're going through in the world today is to continue to open opportunities for our members, open opportunities for our communities in which we live and serve. And diversity, equity, and inclusion does just that. It opens opportunities for us to continue to do our mission, continue to live our values, but most importantly, continue to have our impact of what we wake up every day to do as proud Rotarians. So as I wrap up with our panelists, I would love for y'all to give us your final thought before we open it up for question and answer around what was one opportunity. I know we talked about some challenges and we talked about, some of the setbacks, but what was one opportunity that you all were able to kind of see come out of your process or your designing your plan with diversity and inclusion? Let's start with Ofik.
The opportunity that the project gave me, I think, is knowing how to speak up for myself and things that I care about. Like when I founded this project, I didn't know what topics I'm going to talk about. Will it be women's rights? Will it be climate change? So I gathered it all of my beliefs in one little project, all the things I want to raise awareness for and that I want people to know about. It helped me realize how much a teamwork really means, how much it's important, because in school is like live or die. But it helped me connecting to people, making friends, and and even learning about things I didn't even know at first, from our global conversations. I researched a lot of information and statistics, and I think I learned a lot, and I hope that I gave people their opportunity to learn and speak up.
Awesome. Awesome. So as you all can see, the opportunity from OFIC, it wasn't just the impact of everyone else. It also was a personal impact and personal development throughout that process. Anyone else want to share? Sydney, did you have a quick opportunity that came out of your process so far? I know you guys are still in the early stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I can give an opportunity personally, and then one for our director team too. Personally, I've been able to connect to more intentional DEI work within a professional setting, which has been really great. And then, within our director team, an opportunity has been continuously learning, right? Our team has already brought so many great perspectives that I've learned from. I've expanded my awareness of DEI, and we've all been able to, as we work through the process, it can be really messy, right? But the opportunity is that we get to learn from each other, and we get to explore, and we get to find ways that we can be better leaders and have a better impact. And so it just, the opportunity is the ever learning process of DEI work.
Awesome. See, it's ever learning. Did you all hear that? She said that's going to be a continual opportunity. Every day you engage in this work, you're going to learn something different. And we're seeing a lot of that everyday process of learning. Carol, do you have an opportunity that came out of your work so far?
So what's been really interesting has been the level of engagement, right? And we, when this first came about, really, it was really aimed more towards the 21-22 year, the year that I would be district governor, and it just erupted on its own. And it's like, no, we're gonna start this now. And which has just been thrilling, right? And just the engagement out of the woodwork, the people coming out and saying, you know what, I want in on this. I received a call from a Rotarian in Lincoln, Nebraska. He called me up special and he says, Carol, I want in on this. You got to let me in on this. And I'm like, Chuck, you bet, absolutely. And so just people coming out of the woodwork, and what you emphasize, what you focus on grows. Since we did that Empowering Women conversation in 2018, 4 of the last 5 named district governors have been female.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome.
So, what you focus on grows, and the engagement that we're wanting to grow is growing, and it's organic.
And see, I love that, because who doesn't want engagement in their club right now? Who doesn't want engagement in their community, in their organizations? And that is the opportunity that you evolve and actually empower, is the engagement. And so I want to tell you, friends, as we go into our opening up for our questions and answer, I do want to manage the expectation. We have a lot of questions that have been raised in our queue here. We're not going to be able to address them all. I do see some common themes, so we'll try to address a few of those if we can. And some of the common things that I am seeing is, yes, this reminder, we will send out a recap email. You will get this recording with all the slides, as well as you'll get everyone's contact information to reach out further. The other thing I will tell you that we're seeing a lot of our questions around is the conversation, if my community that in which I live is not perceived as a diverse community, what do I do in those situations? And I would tell you, our point of advice or our perspective is that diversity looks different in every community. So I will want to understand a little bit more, what are you classifying as diversity, to understand what does that mean for your situation. But I will encourage you this. I don't care if you live here, there, or there. You have diversity in your demographics and your community. You may not be aware of where that pocket may be, but they're there. And I would say start with organizations, start with nonprofits who are doing the work on the front line to ensure that minority voices are heard in advocacy there. Start with them with those relationships. So I will go ahead and address the first question. If we could go ahead, if the Rotary staff team, if you don't mind, sending me the questions that you guys would like for us to address. It's so many. I will also say that we see the questions around survey design. So we will, once again, we will send that out as a recap. But we want you all to know is that all of our perspectives today is not the only perspective out there, and it may not necessarily fit or be a value add for your club or culture climate where you're at. So it's very, very important that you continue to ask that question and have the conversation, what can work for your culture, okay? So I turn it over to Leanne. Any questions you want to raise to the panel?
Yes, I'm going to send this one to Sydney. Someone wanted to understand the parenthetical around pronouns. So for example, my name is Leanne and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Yeah, I can share a little bit. I also want to acknowledge I'm not the expert here. I am cisgendered and identify with a gender that I was assigned at birth. But what I can do is share some of the education that I've learned around the topic. So in understanding pronouns, people have various identities, gender identities that they identify with. And so some identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth and the body they were born into, and some do not. And some identify with their body in different ways and on different days, and it just depends. And so sharing pronouns is really a way to dismantle the binary of man versus woman, as well as the assumptions that we place on other people and how they might identify. For example, I shouldn't assume that Carol is a woman and identifies as she, her, just because of her appearance. I should ask her. That's really the best way to know how a person identifies is by asking, or even stating your pronouns first. Hey, my pronouns are she, her. What are your pronouns? How do you identify? But really, it's a way to break down this binary and create a safer space for more inclusive spaces for people who identify differently.
Thanks, Sydney. I'm going to send this next one to Ofek. What advice do you have to help us listen to, value, respect, and actively engage the next generation to take our organization forward?
That's a great question. I was looking for this one actually. What I think is it's all start with the school system. I always thought it should be a lesson for knowing the differences between people, even accepting the differences, like cultures, food, languages. We should. I know a lot of people that are not familiar with a lot of cultures, and just said. And after that, that's how racism or prejudice goes around. So what I mainly think is it's all start with learning. What you need, we all need to research about things we don't know, about things we're curious about. Like I know I'm curious with the Arabic culture, and that's why I'm taking Arabic courses at school. And I think if everybody will do this, we can build a whole new generation that we didn't thought it would be ever. And this generation hopefully will do what we do, like volunteering and striving to a better world. And I'm sure it will change the world a lot more than we do.
Thank you, Ofek. Carol, I'm going to come to you because there have been lots of people sharing stories about the discomfort that can come with having some of these conversations. So is it possible to address this current climate and some of these issues and still remain non-political?
Yeah, because we're dealing with human beings and human situations. We're not dealing with policies and politics and that kind of stuff. And especially in Rotary, where we're not a political organization, we're not a religious organization, we're a service organization. And our ability to bridge across boundaries globally means that we are uniquely and especially qualified and really need to be the ones that bridge it locally. And as far as uncomfortability, we cannot grow if we don't become uncomfortable. You know, we cannot learn if we don't become uncomfortable. And comfort is the step that you have before you slide backwards and deteriorate, right? And so these are muscles we have to exercise. These are things that we have to do in order to grow as human beings for the rest of our lives. And we have to integrate it into everything. And the more that we can practice these conversations and have these conversations and deal with the human beings in front of us and just have a human conversation and realize that their perspective is unique, it's different than mine, it's not wrong, neither is mine, and that they have a perspective that I can't get myself, right? In my white skin, I can't have the perspective of someone in black skin, right? But I can listen and I can learn and I can relate and I can say, and I can believe, right? That their experience is real to them. And I can embrace that as, with empathy and compassion and grace, right? So it's not practice. Really, just have a conversation. Just keep talking.
Great. Learning and asking questions seems to be a theme on the webinar today. Todd, one question for you here. How would we address those traditions that wouldn't necessarily be considered inclusive, that might not be welcoming to visitors coming to our club?
Yeah, that is a really great question. And it's situational because what I have found in this work is what I think is not considered tradition, someone else may think and may believe it is. And so I think it's very important, and this is why assessment is so important for your organization, is to understand, and ask those questions and be very curious of the why and how, the why and the how. How do we get here today? Why do we actually do the invocation this way? Why do we actually have to have 4 different badges before someone become a full Rotarian? Like, these are some traditions that are in our clubs and it's in our systems and our processes and policies that we need to ask the question why and how, so we can explore the conversation around, is it still aligned with our values of who we are today? Is it still aligned with our mission of who we are today, and our motto? And so that would be my advice there. And I know we're at time and we're here at wrap up. And I think in any type of fashion of when Rotarians get together, we must always lead the meeting with our action and our point of action. And I think it's very, very important that we talk and share various perspectives today, and understand that everyone, not only just on this panel, but everyone that's tuning in has a unique perspective and story. And it's up for you to share it. And we welcome you to share that as a part of the action steps. But once again, you can't do it all by yourself. So the first step is, as you go back to your organization, your community, align stakeholders, align the task force, because you guys can have the conversation. And we understand throughout this process, I am a practitioner and a researcher around diversity and inclusion. This process could be very taxing emotionally, okay? So you gotta make sure you take care of yourself in this process, as well as balance expectation and over communicate and understand small changes make big difference, and how to celebrate small wins as well, because you can be defeated because it can be overwhelming. So I want to acknowledge that. We talked a lot about understanding the gaps. We can see why that's important, because it's very important for you to have a strategic plan, but not just have the conversation and the plan. Think what you can do now within the next 3 months, but also think about what you can do in the next 3 to 5 years. What we are dealing with in inclusion work is a part of systemic issues that you or I did not create, that we are all living in, and we want to have a better change. And we understand that in order to change that process, because we're represented with a variety of ideas and beliefs. So ensure that you have a plan now and the future, because this is going to be an everlasting journey. And it is great as you engage with it. And so our recommendation as you stand this up and implement this for your club and community organization is continue to take action, have the conversation, but most importantly, center yourself so we can all progress. And we're not just going to leave you with those points, because we have resources that we can share with you. Rotary International and the staff and a lot of Rotarians and volunteers we're all working together to continue to develop this journey for us. And this is why we started this DEI webinar series. We're not going to be able to address everything on this 35 minutes conversation, but I will want you all to go and check out these resources. Guess what? We have a learning topic, discussion, board, chat, that all these great things that you guys are mentioning in the chat, take it to the learning topic. We want to hear your ideas, because we know that the answers and the solutions are on this chat. It's within this call, and we want to hear that. So please go check out all our resources. We have club assessments there, as well as toolkits, and we're going to continue to build that, as well as we're going to continue to have this dialogue series. So I want to definitely talk about our next webinar series by our fabulous colleague, our moderator, Beth Keck, will be at our next section. That's going to really talk about the power of connection with diverse communities. We see this as a challenge as well, but every challenge presents an opportunity. Rotary, open opportunities. So I want you to take advantage of the opportunity and join us again on November 12th. Share this wide with all your district, with all your members and all your loved ones, because it is a conversation you do not want to miss. Because there is power. But I am so grateful for everyone joining in today. I'm so grateful for the Rotary team and all our fabulous panelists. Can we give a virtual clap for all our fabulous panelists and all the great things you guys are doing? And so my encouragement as we leave today, don't forget that you will get these slides in a recording and the recap email. Share it on social media, share it to all your club members, but most importantly, share your story with someone else. So continue to have accountability and continue to build inclusion. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your week.